At 3:42 on a Monday afternoon, I learned why the little girl in my guest room sometimes forgot and called my husband Dad. 5 minutes later, I found the message in which he promised her mother I would be dead before Christmas. My name is Evelyn Mercer. Most people call me Evie, including the 4-year-old I believed was my husband's niece. Piper had been living in my house for 11 weeks by then. Her mother, Sloane, was supposedly Grant's cousin from Macon. According to the story I had been given, Sloane's ex-husband had emptied their checking account, vanished with a girlfriend, and left them one eviction notice away from sleeping in a car. I had opened my home before Grant finished asking. That Monday, I was supposed to be in Chicago for a fraud conference. Thunderstorms grounded my flight in Atlanta, and the keynote speaker agreed to present online instead. I decided not to tell Grant. Our 5th anniversary was in 2 weeks, and surprising my husband with dinner felt more romantic than surprising him with a terminal update from Hartsfield-Jackson. On the way home, I stopped at a children's boutique in Ponce City Market. Piper's birthday was coming up. I bought her a blue dress with tiny embroidered foxes, a yellow raincoat, and the silver sneakers she had pressed her nose against the window to admire the week before. The sales clerk smiled as she folded the dress. "Your daughter is going to lose her mind over these." "My husband's niece," I said. "She and her mom are staying with us while they get back on their feet." "That's generous. Grant would do the same for my family." I believed it when I said it. While she wrapped the raincoat, I texted my husband that boarding had started. Then I asked what he was doing. He sent a photograph from the farmer's market near our house. A paper bag of peaches sat in his lap, and his message read, "Trying to survive without my favorite person." In the lower corner of the picture, a woman's arm rested beside his. She was wearing my green wool coat. There were plenty of green coats in Atlanta. There was only one with a copper silk lining embroidered EM at the cuff. My mother had commissioned it from a local designer the year before she died. I kept it in a garment bag because Atlanta offered about 9 days of weather cold enough to justify it. Before I could enlarge the photograph, it disappeared from the thread. Grant replaced it with a picture of peaches on the passenger seat. "Wrong photo," he wrote. I stared at those words until the clerk asked whether I needed a gift receipt. Our house was a red brick Craftsman in Inman Park that had belonged to my grandmother. Grant called it ours. The deed called it mine. When I pulled into the alley 20 minutes later, his car was gone. So was Sloane's. The house should have been empty, but I went in through the back and locked the door behind me. Piper's plastic tea set covered the kitchen floor. One of Diane's church programs lay open on the counter beside 3 dirty wine glasses. My mother-in-law had moved into the downstairs study after hip surgery in April and had never mentioned leaving. Upstairs, the door to my bedroom stood open. My green coat lay across the bed. Sloane's perfume hung in the air. One of her hoop earrings rested on Grant's nightstand. The sheets had been stripped and shoved into the laundry basket, although the housekeeper had changed them that morning. I did not cry. I did something worse. I started noticing things. I investigate vendor fraud for a hospital network. My work is mostly invoices, shell companies, and executives who think putting consulting on a payment makes theft invisible. Panic is expensive in my line of work, so I took photographs before touching anything. The hallway camera outside our bedroom had been switched off at noon. It had still cached a short clip before losing power. Grant appeared first, pulling Sloane toward him by the belt loops of my jeans. She was laughing when he kissed her. They stumbled through my bedroom door together. The clip ended there. The kitchen computer chimed downstairs. Grant used it to stream basketball while he cooked. He had also used it to sign into a private messaging account and forgotten to sign out. A notification floated in the corner of the screen. Sloane had written, "Piper almost called you Dad," in front of Evie again. I clicked because some disasters do not leave room for good manners. The conversation went back years. There were photographs of Grant holding newborn Piper in a hospital room, birthday videos, mortgage documents for a townhouse I had never seen, messages arranging nights together while I sat downstairs with Diane, letting her lecture me about how selfish career women waited too long to have babies. Then I reached a message Grant had sent at 1:14 that morning. Once the new policy clears, we do Christmas weekend at Cedar Lake. Old cabins have accidents. You take Piper out for Cocoa. I find Evie too late. Sloan had answered. And the house? Mine, Grant wrote. Which means ours. My fingers went numb on the mouse. Headlights swept across the kitchen wall. Through the window, I saw my husband turn into the alley, with Piper on his shoulders. Sloan sat beside him in the passenger seat, one bare arm resting out the window. Diane was in the back. They looked like a family coming home. I sent the screenshots and camera clip to a new cloud folder, then shared it with my oldest friend. I did not know yet whether what I had found would be enough to protect me. I could not be inside when Grant opened that door. I left through the front as they came in through the back. Piper's birthday presents stayed in my trunk. My friend Camille lived 12 minutes away if every light on North Avenue cooperated, and 35 if they behaved normally. I made it in 18. She opened her apartment door in pajama pants and one gardening glove. Camille had been repotting a fig tree in her bathtub, which was the kind of project she started whenever a deadline frightened her. "Why do you look like that?" she asked. I handed her my phone. She read the messages twice. On the second pass, she stopped at the one about Cedar Lake. "We are calling the police. I need a lawyer first. You need both. I need Grant not to know I found this." Camille took off the gardening glove with her teeth. "Then stop standing in my hallway where the security camera can see you." She pulled me inside. My phone had already filled with messages from Grant. "Flight delayed? Call me when you land. Love you, beautiful." He added a photograph of Piper holding a peach like a baseball. Sloane's shoulder had been carefully cropped out. I turned off location sharing and called Nina Patel, a divorce attorney Camille knew from college. Nina answered from her office, where she was apparently eating crackers over a stack of deposition transcripts. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked 3 questions. "Are you physically safe?" "Yes." "Does Grant know where you are?" "No." "Have you altered, deleted, or forwarded anything from his account besides copies of what was already open?" "No." "Good. Keep it that way." "Camille, are you there?" "I'm here. Put Evie on your couch. Do not let her go home, meet Grant, or announce her divorce on the internet. I am sending both of you an address. A detective will meet us there." "Can he be arrested?" I asked. Nina paused. "Maybe not tonight. A message can be a threat, a fantasy, or part of a plan. We treat it as a plan until professionals determine otherwise." I wanted certainty. Nina offered procedure. At 6:30, we sat in a nearly empty police precinct across from Detective Elena Ruiz. She had gray at her temples and a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Aunt." She watched the hallway clip, read the message thread, and asked me to reconstruct my afternoon without guessing. What time had I entered the house? Who had access to the computer? When had the camera lost power? Had I ever agreed to a new life insurance policy? That last question made my stomach clench. "We have coverage through Grant's firm," I said. "A basic spousal policy, $250,000. The message says, new policy. I didn't apply for one." Detective Ruiz wrote that down. I explained Cedar Lake. My family owned a 2-bedroom cabin there, 90 minutes north of Atlanta. Grant hated it. The plumbing complained all winter. Cell service vanished at the driveway. And the only restaurant in town closed at 8. I usually went alone in December to check the pipes. Ruiz looked up. "Does it have an old heater?" It did. I replaced it last year. Grant did not know that. He had skipped the installation appointment for a golf tournament. The mistake was small, but it was the first crack in the perfect plan I had imagined while driving to Camille's. Ruiz arranged for an officer in Cedar County to check the cabin and told me not to contact the insurer myself until she could coordinate with its fraud unit. Then she helped Nina prepare the facts for an emergency protective order. At 8:15, Grant called. I let it ring once and answered. "Hey, handsome." My voice sounded almost normal. "Where are you?" No greeting, no joke about the flight. Still at the airport. The airline put us in a hotel near the terminal. It's chaos. Camille stared at me from across the interview room. Grant was quiet for a beat. "Send me a picture. Of the hotel? Of you." He had never asked for proof before. "I look awful." "You always look beautiful to me." There was warmth in his voice. For 5 years, that warmth had been one of the safest sounds in my life. Then Sloane whispered something near him. Grant covered the phone too late. "Is that your cousin?" I asked. "Diane has the television on. Tell her I said good night." "I will. Evie?" "Yes?" "You'd tell me if something was wrong, wouldn't you?" Detective Ruiz lifted one finger, reminding me not to improvise. "Of course," I said. Grant exhaled. "That's why we're good together. No secrets." When the call ended, my hand shook so badly I dropped the phone. Camille reached for me. I moved away before she could touch my shoulder. If she touched me, I would cry. If I started, I was afraid I would never finish. Nina pushed a sleeve of crackers across the table instead. "Tomorrow," she said, "we start with the money." That was language I understood.